begin. Yes. There we go.
So today, we're going to...
Good. All right. I can put that there. Doom, doom, doom. All righty. Go here, and I'll go there, and I'll go there. Checking the connection. You are now live. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot one thing. Let me just do one more quick thing. I could see most of this I can speak about. We're going to talk about fasting today, you guys. Fasting. Isn't that so exciting? I love fasting. Do you love fasting? We're going to talk about the benefits, how to do it, why to do it, why would you want to fast? What would you be thinking about when you thought, maybe I should fast for a little while? First of all, if you have never watched with us before, my name is Ted McDonald. I am a yoga teacher, endurance athlete, and coach, and the creator of Conscious Endurance, which is a movement of people who want to live an active, healthy, vibrant 100+ years. And I decided that I would go live here weekly, not always live, but weekly, share a bit of some sort of teaching that would help us live to 100 healthy, vibrant, and most importantly, active years. Because the truth is, I have no interest in being, 95 years old, limping around. I mean, I don't know. Maybe when I get there, I will have that interest. But right now, for me, I want to be at the top of the mountain at 100 years old, going, I can't believe I just did this at 100 years old, right? So that's what we want to do, is create that kind of community. All right, so today we're going to talk about fasting. We've been talking about all kinds of different things. This is episode 12 officially. Every week we go live and do this. And we talked about endurance training. We talked about mindset and motivation. And this month is all about nutrition. We talked about tracking your nutrition, understanding that. And today we're talking about fasting. And again, these talks are sort of bigger overviews of a lot of the research that's out there, because there's so much information on dieting, endurance training, mindset. Like it's just especially now that we've democratized information, there's just so much out there. So what I do with a lot of my clients is we discuss what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how they can improve it. And these are little minimal, I'm saying you should go do a 28-day water fast. I would not recommend that to people initially, right? That's something that maybe you build up to. I've never done one. But there is some science that shows that it's pretty amazing thing. So let's just think about, have you ever decided that you wanted to do a fast? Have you ever decided you wanted to lose weight, which is a benefit of fasting? Have you ever decided you just wanted to feel better, which is a benefit of fasting, kind of overall, be more energized? And one of the things that I always say from the fasting that I do, which is pretty regular, is just feel more lean and efficient. Like my body just feels like it runs more like a machine if I'm not just hoovering things into my mouth on a regular basis. So if I give it some time to chill out, it turns out that there's actually some pretty cool benefits, at least in my own experience. So we're going to discuss a little bit of that, but think about that as you go. And what kinds of fasting are there? Well, there's all different kinds. One that people talk about now a lot is intermittent fasting. What is intermittent fasting? Well, it depends on who you talk to, but basically it's TRE, which is called time restricted eating. So you essentially take in all your food in a certain amount of time. So let's say you finish dinner and your dessert at 8 p.m. Then you drink some water maybe before bed, maybe not too much so you don't have to get up and pee, but then you sleep. and then you wake up and you don't have anything until 8 a.m. 8 a.m. you have your water. Well, you can have water. It's fine to have water, and it's fine to brush your teeth. But if you have a coffee at 8 a.m. or you have a smoothie at 8 a.m. or you have some eggs or breakfast or, oatmeal, whatever it is, you break the fast. That was 12 hours, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. There is a lot of science that shows that if you keep your eating, your intake, so let's just talk about this as intake. We're going to get to whether or not coffee is good or bad or is allowed during fasting, because a lot of people are like, well, you can have coffee, right? You can have coffee. Stop justifying your coffee habits. But anyway, so 12 hours, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., 12 hours fasting. Do that on a regular basis if this is something that you want to try to do. And then get to 13 hours, get to 14 hours, get to 15, get to 16. So there's a few resources, and I can jot these down in the comments depending on where you're watching this. Rhonda Patrick, Found My Fitness, has a great podcast and website, amazing. Satchin Panda wrote a book called The Circadian Code, and I want to talk about it. And then Valter, Longo, those are kind of the three main, pioneers, researchers that I've read and listened to and learned from. So Satchin Panda and his lab at the Salk Institute down in San Diego, they had two groups of mice. One group had access to food 24/7. Same amount of food, same diet. So it was a high fat, high salt diet. So it was unhealthy, right? There's arguments about the high fat piece. But anyway, so they had this high fat, high salt diet, access to it, so they could just, bounce around in their little, mouse, mobile, and then they could go eat anytime they wanted, any time of the day. Then there was the other group that had access only 8 hours a day. So they did a 16-hour fast every day, and I think it was like 2 weeks or something like that. The group of mice, and again, I know we're not mice, but the group of mice who had access to the food 24/7, all of the mice got some sort of lifestyle illness, cardiovascular disease, which is heart disease, diabetes, cancer, had strokes, like they all got it. On the other side, the mice who had the same diet, same amount, but only limited time, nothing. Healthy. Didn't gain weight, right? So again, I understand, we are not mice, right? However, there is something to be learned from that. And if you understand the science behind fasting and why you would fast, this might give you a reason to begin to try to see what you could do with some fasting. So what happens when you fast for a certain amount of time is a process called autophagy. So the cells, essentially, when you start fasting, your body goes, oh no, there's not going to be any food, we're going to die of starvation, which obviously is not true, but the cells initially protect themselves. There's some science that shows if you are a cancer patient, if you or somebody you know has cancer, if they fast before they go in to a chemo session, say they have a chemo session for a few days, they should fast if they can for a little bit before that, at least a day, but if you can make it 2, 3, 4, 5 days, because the cells are protecting themselves, and so some of the good cells will be left over. But anyway, side note, so once those cells protect themselves, once the cells protect themselves, then eventually those cells go, okay, well, we can't do this forever, so we just die. They die off. But then the key thing happens. The stem cells start to rebuild new, fresh cells. So that's the process. And this flushing out, think of autophagy as the flushing out of damaged cells. So when you begin fast, the process of protection and then flushing out some of that dead stuff and then rebuilding some of the good cells from your immune system and your muscles and turning white fat into brown fat. So the process, there's a few different scientific processes that happen during the course of that. Now, how long does it take? Can you do intermittent fasting? I guess that shouldn't be in quotes. But can you do intermittent fasting and do you still have that problem? It's right now the science of tracking how each autophagizes. I don't think that's a word. But how the process of autophagy takes place in your body is not really trackable at the moment. We know it happens, but we can't really say, oh, well, Sally, she's a great autophager. I know that's not a word. But in other words, she processes it and flushes her system within a day. Meanwhile, Johnny over here, it takes him 3 days to get the same process, right? So we just don't know. But we know that that process actually happens. So that's one of the things that is for a health, kind of overall health, is what you want to do is cleanse. Now, there are lots of different types of fasting. And again, we're just talking so far about time-restricted eating, TRE, which is intermittent fasting, similar type thing. Satchin Panda, again, to go back to him and his lab there, he recommends that you begin with a week to 2 weeks of 12 hours a day. So if you're newer at this, just finish your dinner, dessert, or whatever at a certain time, 6, 7, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., or whatever, and don't start again until 12 hours later. See how you feel. And again, I talk about this all the time. Tracking. How does it feel? How long did you do it? Take notes. Have a little notebook. Figure it out for you what works, because we're all different. We all have different history. We're all different ages. We're all have different stress levels, different sleep levels. We process things differently. So every single person is going to handle acclimatize to a fast a little bit differently. I believe that we can train ourselves to do anything within reason, but it does take some training. So when I first started, I was freaking out about not having this food in the morning, but now 14 hours is not really that big of a deal. I understand the process. I'm more comfortable with the process. I know that when the hunger pangs come, I go, oh man, I just would like some of those eggs and avocado right now. Or maybe some nuts would just hold me over until I get to 16 hours. But it doesn't work that way. But you train, and eventually you go, it's okay. I know my body has enough fuel. So much of fasting is psychological. It is ridiculous. I remember doing a 2 or 3 day fast, I forget. And there was so much panic in my head. And then eventually the panic went away, and I thought, what is going on? Why am I panicking about this thing? It's gone now. It's totally, because your body oxidizes the fat. So speaking of why you would want to do this, if you wanted to lose a little weight, that's another reason to fast. So you can always lose a few pounds. And I always feel like if I do it on a regular basis, so I try to do 12 hours a day, just to share my own experience. I try to do 12 hours a day, and then at minimum. And then on the weekends, I try to do 14 to 15, 13 to 16, depending on the day. And that's what I do. I have done very few multi-day fasts. I've done them a couple times, 3 days once, 2 days another time. I've done 24 hours a couple times, with just water, just tea with lemon I did once for 2 days. But I've never done 10 days, never done 30 days. There's on, I think it's Netflix right now. It's either Netflix or Amazon Prime. There's a series called Unwell, and they basically sort of go into the wellness industry, and they sort of pull out all the bad stuff in the wellness industry. But fasting is one of the episodes that I watched, and it's interesting because they talk primarily about 28-day fast, like a long, prolonged fast, and the benefits of that. But anyway, so weight loss would be one, and again, like I said, more energy. Like I definitely feel more energy when I'm fasting. And then exercise. So back to the autophagy idea. If you exercise in a fasted state, the process of autophagy does actually happen a little bit quicker. So those are a couple of reasons that you might want to try fasting. And Satchin Panda, in his book, The Circadian Code, because it's all about circadian rhythm. So this is the other thing. your circadian rhythm is really important with how your cells start to kind of activate in your metabolic system. So if you're waking up at 6 in the morning and normally you have a coffee by 6:20, 6:15, 6:20, 6:30, whatever, that's your first thing, and then you're out the door, then you have to back up when you actually stop eating, unless you can change the morning. So that's what I did, is I changed both things to help myself. So I'll finish eating at 7, and then I won't start again until 9 the next morning, or 10, or even 11 the next morning, which gives me a solid 16 hours, right? And then I always, in the beginning, might feel a little, it's a little scary, I don't know. But then finally, I feel pretty good about actually when I'm done. And then it's almost like a treat. You get to break the fast, woohoo! And when I do 12 hours on a regular basis, multiple days in a row, which I try to do, honestly, during this whole pandemic that's been happening, there's been times where I'm like, I'm just gonna have a little tiny piece of dark chocolate, or a little tiny frozen yogurt, or whatever. And so I might not get to 12 hours, but I'm okay with that. Anyway, so when you do it on a regular basis, you can train yourself to actually do it. And I think that it's really important, because ultimately, and if you listen or read some like Mark Sisson and the Paleo Primal Blueprint and a lot of his stuff, Mark's Daily Apple, you begin to understand how our body was designed. And it was really designed to feed a little bit and fast a little bit, and feed a little bit and fast a little bit, and feed a little bit more and fast a little more. And that was the way it was. But now we have access to food 24/7. So it's one of the reasons why, and science will continue to show this more and more, but it's one of the reasons why we have all these lifestyle diseases. So what I want for you is not to have any lifestyle diseases. I want for you to be 100, happy, healthy, active, 100-plus-year-old at the top of the mountain with all of us, waving to those young bucks who aren't quite in shape enough to get up there. But anyway, so let's start with that. We'll start with working on 12 hours a day and just food. So now we're going to get to the coffee situation. So I didn't drink coffee for 15 years because I used to need it as a crutch. And for those of you that don't already know, I also gave up drinking and doing drugs 27 years ago. 27 years ago, I can't believe it. But I gave up drinking coffee for a solid 15 years. And then I started hanging out with some European cyclists. And since I don't drink wine, everybody's drinking wine. I was like, I don't really drink wine. They're like, what? You don't drink wine? And then they said, all right, well, we're going on a coffee ride. And at the time, I wasn't drinking coffee. And I thought, this is silly. So I had café con leche, por favor, in the south of Spain, which was fantastic. And then I realized that caffeine is actually really great for jet lag too, just in case you didn't know. But anyway, regarding fasting, I digress. Regarding fasting, just don't have a coffee. You don't need it. You don't wait an hour, right? Wait an hour, wait 2 hours. I mean, it's up in the air, right? So Satchin Panda will say, listen, if you have the lifestyle that you lead, where you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're going to the gym and you're working out really hard and you got to work all day, and then, right, and you have this lifestyle that you just can't get through the first few hours of the day with just water, then have your coffee, make sure it's black, no cream, no sugar. Right, just black coffee, because it's 0 calories. So that's the argument. The argument is, well, it's 0 calories, so it's not really starting the metabolic processing, but there are antioxidants in coffee, so that's why there's this whole argument. So just don't do the coffee, right? If you absolutely have to, do it. What can I say? Anyway, that's the coffee issue. Black if you have to, don't if you don't have to. So start with 12 hours a day, see how it feels. Okay, and then as you continue, then you will start to plan maybe a little bit more. Like I plan on the weekends, my 14-hour day, my 16-hour day, if I can. See how that feels. And then here's another thing too that is a big deal, is if we just all eat a little bit less than we currently eat, we'll be fine. Don't be afraid to eat a little bit less. And I wrote down 20 to 30% less. I bet we would all be fine if we ate 20 to 30% less than what we currently eat, because our bodies are designed to burn the fuel that we have stored. We store fat, and our bodies are designed to burn that. But if we keep taking in fuel and fuel and more fuel and food and food and more food and fuel, then we're never going to get to the stores, right? We're never going to not have that constant intake of fuel, which means whatever we're storing is just going to stay stored forever. But ultimately, you want to use those stores and then get some new stores, and it just keeps everything moving in a state of kind of regeneration. So remember, a friend of mine, he's like, yeah, I just like to be a little sore every day, and that made complete sense to me, because ultimately your muscles are rebuilding themselves on a regular basis, and if you're rebuilding, you're in this state of regeneration and growth on a daily basis. Similar kind of thing. So we fast a little bit, flush out the old, and then let those stem cells rebuild themselves. So start with 12 hours a day, see if you can get to 2 weeks of that, and then plan your 14-hour day, 16-hour day, whatever it is, maybe 2 days in a row, and then see if in general you can eat less. I would say, so there's my third resource that I'll share is a guy named Valter Longo. Where's his book? I just had his book. Here we go. He is an incredible guy, an Italian guy actually. This is his book that is called, I don't know if you can see it there, The Longevity Diet. And he has a fast called the Prolon fast, Prolon. And I haven't done it, full disclosure, I haven't done it. I will do it, but I haven't done it. It's what's called a fasting mimicking diet. Another different type of fasting. So there's time restricted eating, which is intermittent fasting. There is a 1-day fast, water fast, or a 2-day fast. There's 5 and 2, where of a 7-day week, you're fasting 2 of those days, or you're fasting 2 days in a row, then eating 5 days. There's all kinds of different fasts. And ultimately, it is about doing what you can do within your lifestyle in order to get the result that you want to get. Right, pretty simple. So this one here, Valter Longo, and by the way, he is interviewed, both he and Satchin Panda are interviewed in Rhonda Patrick's podcast, both incredible resources to go to for sure. But the fasting mimicking diet is 5 days, and you're having very little calories. It's like 500 calories a day. But that allows your body to also mimic the idea of being in a fasted state, which helps the same kinds of things. And in fact, he says in some of his research that he wishes that more people would fast, because his data, his science would be more plentiful, but you can't really get a lot of people to go do 5 days on just water, right? So it's a harder thing. So back to our things that we're gonna do, right? So let's go to try to start doing 12 hours a day. Give it a week, give it 2 weeks, see how it goes. See how you feel, if you feel any better. Then maybe amp that up to just a couple days a week doing 14 hours, 13, 14, 15, 16. Satchin Panda says that every hour more than 12, quadruples the amount of benefit that you get. But start with 12, get used to 12, and then train up a little bit higher. And it's fine to work out if you're doing a half an hour workout, a 45-minute workout, hour workout. If you start doing 2-3 hour workouts, 4, 5, 6 hour workouts, you got to plan a little differently. Still fine, but just plan a little differently with your food during the workout, so you actually have that, or make sure you're in a fasted state, more ketogenic state, so that your body is using the stored fat for fuel if you're going to go longer. So just be more aware. But if you're thinking about fasting for 16 hours and then going for a 3 or 4 hour ride, you can email me directly and we can discuss that a little bit more. But anyway, so eat a little. So start with your 12 hours a day, then get up to, if you can, 14 or 16. See how it feels. Track it. See how it feels. Do you feel better? Do you feel worse? Was that not good? Was it okay? What did you do? How did you do it? See if you can eat less in general. Valter Longo He's been eating 2 meals a day for the last two decades. Then he just skips one. I think he's been skipping dinner. I think he just has breakfast and lunch. That's a little bit much for me. I'm not quite there yet. Oftentimes I will skip lunch and I'll just have a few snacks, a few nuts during the day, and I'll just work through the day and I'll have a dinner. And that's always an opportunity for me to have a lighter dinner, and then I can keep my calorie intake pretty below. And again, I wake up in the morning and I feel really, really good. Let's see. So tracking your situation and then repeat. That's my final thing. Do it, see how it feels, and then do it again. All right. And of course, if you have any questions, definitely let me know in these comments. Send me a message. I'll get to it eventually. And I'll post some of the remarks. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not there. It's youtube.com/TeddyMcDonald1. And if you haven't already done so, my newsletter, teddymcdonald.com, newsletter. And then the handstand workshop. Woohoo! We're doing a handstand workshop. My friend Greg Louganis and I. Greg Louganis, 4-time Olympic gold medal diver. Yes, that's him. He and I are going to lead our handstand workshop on September 26th. If you're watching this later, that's 2020. And the most colorful year that I've been alive so far, that's for sure. And you can sign up for that where? You got to go to Instagram or you got to go to YouTube right now. Eventually you'll be able to go to my website, teddymcdonald.com, and you'll be able to sign up. And I'll see you then. Thanks so much, you guys. I appreciate you being here, and I'll be back with you next week where we got one more. What's today? Oh no, we got two more nutrition things, but approximately same time, maybe a little before, a little after. Thank you so much.